What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your $1,400 third stimulus check update and third stimulus package update and related news. The U.S. House of Representatives has the third stimulus check bill today. I'm going to give you the latest details on that and other few surprising things in this video. Remember, the $1,400 third stimulus check package had originally passed the House last week, and it has now gone to the Senate, who has amended the bill. They've changed the bill. They made significant changes to the bill. The Senate did then pass the bill on Saturday morning after being in session for 24 hours straight, including overnight, as the senators stayed awake throughout the wee hours of the night to pass the bill. However, because they passed the bill with an amended version, it now has to go back to the U.S. House of Representatives to be passed because they have to pass the exact same versions. In the Senate version, they removed the $15 an hour minimum wage completely. The minimum wage provision raising the minimum wage is not in the third stimulus check package bill at all because, well, they simply don't have the votes for it. They had a vote on an amendment to keep the minimum wage in there, and it failed 42 votes to 58 noes. 58 noes were all 50 Republicans and 8 Democrats. So at this point, the $15 an hour minimum wage is dead on arrival, and I don't see any way for them to pass the $15 an hour minimum wage in the near future either. Although I do see a potential standalone bill coming and passing at around the $10 or $11 an hour mark because, well, that is what Republican counterproposals from Republicans Mitt Romney and Tom Cotton. There's several different Republicans. In fact, it has been said that all the senators are in favor of a minimum wage raise, just not to $15 an hour, which is more than double the current $7.25 minimum wage that there is now. So I fully expect after they pass the third stimulus check package bill to see several different bills and packages on the horizon. Once they pass the third stimulus check package and the checks go out, remember, it has to pass the House. They're doing proceedings today. I'll give you an update on that here in a few minutes, as well as then goes to the president to sign. That is when the checks will start going out. So we're almost there. But once the dust settles on that, then we'll likely see a standalone bill for minimum wage raising. The Democrats will want to push for $15 an hour, but at this point, I don't see any way at all that they can pass it with $15 an hour, even if they get rid of the filibuster, which is the rule that means you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass it. Even if they get rid of that, I'll have some new information on that here for you in this video. Because if they get rid of the filibuster, that's actually huge major news. That means that any package or any bill in the future can be passed with just a simple majority of 51 votes or even 50 votes if one person doesn't appear from the other side. For example, we've seen the third stimulus check package pass 50 to 49. 50 Democrats voted yes. 49 Republicans voted no. One Republican was off on a funeral, and it passed 50 to 49. If the 50th Republican had been there, it would have been a 50-50 tie, and then the vice president would have cast the tiebreaker tie, the 51st vote. Now, that passed through the reconciliation process, which only certain things can do. For example, the Senate parliamentarian ruled that the minimum wage cannot be included in the budgetary reconciliation process. Along with several other things, there were several other what people would consider pork items removed from the bill, such as the tunnel in San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi's district, and the bridge in New York, Chuck Schumer's district, were both removed as potential fluff that was removed, along with they reduced the income requirements for the stimulus checks down from $100,000 previously, where you would get a reduced check between $75,000 and $100,000. It's now only $75,000 and $80,000. So they reduced the income requirements on that. Senator Joe Manchin likely was the only person that made that happen, whether you agree with that or not. That cost about 12 to 15 million people the third stimulus check that will not be getting it that would have got it otherwise. Senator Joe Manchin also is likely the culprit for reducing the unemployment benefits from $400 per week to $300 per week. And, well, it is what it is. It has now passed the Senate. They did throw a $10,200 unemployment income tax credit in the third stimulus check package. And what that means is that any unemployment money that you earned in the year 2020, so this is actually kind of retroactive, any unemployment money you earned last year up to $10,200, whether it's unemployment bonus money or unemployment money from your state, that normally counts as income. It's replacement of your income, your job. It's unemployment from the state or from the government, but it counts as your income. Normally, that would be taxable. In the third stimulus check package, they made a compromise, and they have actually that now the first $10,200 of unemployment income from 2020 will not be taxable. To claim this, you're going to have to file your 2020 tax returns, okay? If you've already filed your 2020 tax returns, well, then you're going to probably have to file an amended tax return. But do not do this yet because remember, it still has to pass the House. It's at the House today. They're working on the proceedings of that right now. So until it passes the House and the president signs it, do not file an amended tax return for 2020 yet until it's signed into law. You can't even file an amended return on that principle yet because it's not law yet. Okay, so it would be foolish to file a tax return, amended tax return, based on law that hasn't fully been made into law. It's not fully into law until President Joe Biden signs it. Also, in some pretty shocking, surprising news, former President Donald Trump has sent a cease and desist letter to the Republican Party, to the Republican National Committee, to stop using his name and his likeness. And this shows the further dissension in the Republican Party. And basically, former President Donald Trump is somewhat cutting himself off from the Republican Party. As you can see here, former President Donald Trump reportedly sent a cease and desist letter to the Republican National Committee, the National Republican Congressional Committee, and the National Republican Senatorial Committee to make them stop using his name and likeness in fundraising emails and on merchandise. The committees are the three largest entities through which the Republican Party raises money for their campaigns. A Trump advisor told Politico about the letters, which came after reports that Mr. Trump was enraged that his name and likeness had been used to raise money for organizations that would then help re-elect Republican members of Congress who voted to impeach him. 10 different Republicans voted to impeach former President Donald Trump in the House, and 7 Republican senators later voted to convict him. Mr. Trump was acquitted with 57 senators voting yes to convict, 10 short of the threshold of 67 senators required to remove a president from office. The Republican National Committee sent out 2 emails on Friday asking supporters to donate to add their name to a thank you card to Mr. Trump. And, well, apparently former President Donald Trump thinks that's not enough. Politico reports that people within the Republican Party say privately it's impossible not to use the Trump name as he's so popular with the base of the Republican Party. If Mr. Trump is serious about winning back control in Congress in 2022, they argue that he needs to be more willing to allow his name and likeness to be used. Let me know your thoughts on that down below in the comments. There's also been some rumors and well, maybe even more than rumors about former President Donald Trump possibly thinking about starting his own political party, a third political party. However, not that I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, but that would be bad news for Republicans and good news for Democrats. And here's why. Number one, the Democrats would all stay Democrats, and that would split the Republican Party in two. People that full on support Trump and people that maybe don't support Trump as much but are more Republican. The problem is if you split the Republican Party in two, well, they would probably win almost no seats or re-elections or anything like that. As we know, the country is almost 50-50, slightly leaning toward Democrats, as Democrats won the presidency, the House, and the Senate this time around. So everything's controlled by the Democrats right now. So you can almost say the country's kind of like 51% Democrat, 49% Republican. Senator Bernie Sanders says if the Democrats don't put up or shut up during these next 2 years, that history shows that the Democrats will probably lose control in the next 2 years when the re-election votes come up. However, if former President Donald Trump creates his own party or further dissects the Republican Party, well, that could create, remember, all the Republicans are going to have to vote together to overcome this very slim majority that the Democrats have if they want to win anything. So if they're further divided or even split up into two different parties, there simply won't be enough votes on the Republican side to overtake anything from the Democrats because, well, the Democrats just, they're all Democrats. There's nothing dividing them at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Here is Senator Lindsey Graham on, well, this exact issue, pretty much keeping the Democrats in check based on the Republican Party.
Senator Lindsey Graham, he is the ranking Republican on the Senate Budget Committee. And Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being here. Can you take us behind the doors yesterday when this bill passed and what is in it?
Yeah, well, number one, it took 27 hours to pass it. I'm proud of my Republican colleagues for fighting back. But what a difference a year makes, Maria. March of 2020, we passed a $1.9 trillion bill, the same amount of money, 96-0, because we understood the need to fight COVID. A year later, March of 2021, the Democrats have the House, the Senate, and the White House. And what did we tell you? If they get everything, they're going to run us over. This is out-of-control liberalism. And in this bill, as Kevin said, most of the money's not spent this year. 90% of it's got nothing to do with COVID. But let me give you an example of something that really bothers me. In this bill, if you're a farmer, your loan will be forgiven up to 120% of your loan, not 100%, but 120% of your loan if you're socially disadvantaged, if you're African American, some other minority. But if you're white person, if you're a white woman, no forgiveness. That's reparations. What does that got to do with COVID? So if you're in the farming business right now, this bill forgives 120% of your loan based on your race. These people in the Congress today, the House and the Senate on the Democratic side, are out of control liberals, and God help us all if we don't check and balance them in 2022.
This is just incredible, and we're looking at the list of things that money is being allocated toward, you know, $300 million toward the arts and humanities. I mean, where is this money coming from now that we've got a $28 trillion tab in debt?
Well, it's coming from your children and your grandchildren. It's all borrowed money. There's $200 million for library services. There's over $300 million for the National Endowment of the Humanities and Arts. There's $20 million for native language studies. These all may be good ideas, but they got nothing to do with COVID.
So a couple things I want to point out there. That's the Republican point of view. And generally, I have a middle-of-the-road point of view. I consider myself a realist. Sometimes I disagree with Republicans. Sometimes I disagree with Democrats. And I just tell you guys kind of how it is. Number one, I still see, I've mentioned this a couple times on the channel, but I still see a lot of people saying that only 9% of the money goes to fighting COVID, okay? That's a very one-sided argument. It's like showing you a playing card from one side and just showing you the one side, okay? That is, and that's generally a Republican thing that's coming from the Republican side. It's kind of their counter argument to why they shouldn't pass it. Number one, that's the money that's going directly to fighting the virus, like vaccines, vaccine distribution, research, 9% of the money. That does not include the money going to you, the $1,400 stimulus checks, $1,400 stimulus checks for children, $1,400 stimulus checks for adults, the $3,000 to $3,600 child income tax credits, the $30 billion for mortgage assistance, rental assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance, the money going for states and cities, which they have to use more money on you guys this time around. So we're going to see more of those statewide stimulus checks that California and Maryland just passed in the future. That doesn't include the unemployment money. That doesn't include the SNAP, WIC, and EBT programs. So if they only did the bill for 9%, because I see this a lot in the comments, you wouldn't get a check. You wouldn't get any money. You wouldn't get a check. You wouldn't get SNAP, WIC, and EBT. You wouldn't get the mortgage and rental assistance that's coming out. You wouldn't get the child income tax credits. You wouldn't get unemployment bonus. You'd get nothing. Okay, so just keep that in mind because I see that so often in the comments that only 9% of this bill goes towards COVID and the rest is pork. There's definitely pork in the bill. I'm not going to lie. I'm not standing up for Congress, but I'm being real here with you that 9% goes to fighting the virus. A lot of the money goes toward you guys. So I get the feeling that people, when they say the 9%, they don't really fully understand that that's not counting the money going towards them, going towards you, and going towards helping the people and the unemployment and all those things we mentioned. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, I would argue with Senator Lindsey Graham on the point that our children and our grandchildren are going to pay for this debt. I've been hearing this argument for decades, and I am completely against that argument. Here's why. If we go back to 1990, the debt was $3 trillion. Okay, the national debt was $3 trillion. Now it's $28 trillion. Okay, in 1990, I was 10 years old. Okay, well, I'm 40 now. And I used to always hear when I was a kid and growing up that as the debt grows, our children and our grandchildren will be saddled with this debt and they'll have to pay it their whole lives and tax rates will be out of this world. And here we are. Instead of 10 years old, now I'm 40 years old. The debt is now $28 trillion instead of $3 trillion. And guess what? Tax rates are at a multi-year low. They're one of the lowest tax rates they've ever been. And in fact, they're passing more stimulus now than in the history of the United States to help the people. Okay. Tax rates are not going to suddenly go up. Now, Biden wants to tweak some tax rates for the rich, no doubt, possibly for some corporations, no doubt. But that really has nothing to do with the stimulus that passed, the 5 packages that passed under former President Donald Trump. It's just kind of tax rates are not going to double. Okay. Who's going to pay this debt? Nobody's going to pay this debt. It's just the reality of things. Okay. So stimulus checks that are going out, many economists argue it's not even debt. Nobody pays it back. There's no interest on it. The unemployment boost money, the SNAP WIC and EBT programs, food stamps, mortgage and rental assistance, nobody pays that back. It's literally just money that the government is giving back to the people. A lot of people in our comments say it's money that you get back from your taxes. So you pay taxes in, but now during a pandemic, a once in a 100-year pandemic, the government is giving back. Now it goes towards the national debt. It adds to the national debt, but it's not debt per se because nobody pays it back. There's no interest rate on this stuff. There's not a 5% interest rate on stimulus checks that has to be paid. My son, who's 2 years old, is not going to be saddled with debt and be paying this for many, many years because they're passing stimulus packages now. Nobody's going to pay it back. And this is the reality of kind of the way global economics work right now, is that this happens all over the world. Okay. Canada's had $2,000 monthly stimulus checks for many of its people. Okay. In fact, up until maybe this last package, the US had spent less than half of the amount that other first world countries on stimulus packages based on GDP and population. Okay. So if anything, the US had spent less than half the amount that other countries had. Okay. So again, we're not like overspending against all the other countries. All the other countries are doing the same thing. Okay. That kind of keeps our dollar in check when it comes to like inflation versus other dollars and stuff, because other countries are doing the exact same thing. Because again, we're in a once in a 100-year pandemic, and history shows us if we don't spend it now, that it'll take years and years and years, like the Great Depression of 29 took over a decade to get back to normal. So spending money now actually gets us out of this faster and actually pays for itself because it can cut off a year or 2 or 3 of depression or recession time. So just keep that in mind. That's really my point of view. You can give me a different point of view in the comments if you have one, but nobody's going to be paying this debt. These stimulus checks don't be paid back. The whole stimulus package, it doesn't get paid back. It's just really money the government is giving back to the people and to the economy to get us out of the recession faster. So I will keep you updated. The U.S. House of Representatives today is going through the procedural motions and rules of the voting process of the third stimulus check package. They're doing that on the floor today. I really don't have any other new news on that specific thing to report to you. I will have new videos tonight at 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to update you on when we can expect the vote tonight or tomorrow. As long as the procedural votes and rules kind of get through and there's no delays there, and we don't see amendments done in the House that would potentially delay the bill. If they pass any amendments on the bill, then well, it's going to have to go back to the Senate. Remember, they have to pass the exact same bill. And also, only 4 Democrats can vote no on this bill. If they have 5 Democrats vote no on this bill, it'll be a tie vote and it will not pass the Senate. Last time when it passed the House, 2 Democrats voted no. This time only 4, maximum of 4 can vote no. So I will keep you updated with the voting and the procedural process as soon as new information comes out. The next 2 videos will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to subscribe down below and hit the like button if you haven't so you don't miss out on new videos. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. And me and my wife sell products on Amazon. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.